Welcome to the Adding Column and Beam Assemblies tutorial for the Impact Estimator for Buildings. We're going to continue with the project that we started in previous tutorials. I have that loaded in my project tree up here, and I want to add a columns and beams assembly to this project. So I'm going to right click on the project level here, add assembly, mixed columns and beams. There's two choices here, pre-engineered metal buildings and mixed columns and beams. I'm going to choose mixed columns and beams, and an assembly form will open up. We need to choose an assembly name for this. So I'm going to call it mixed C and B. And then we have a number of input fields to fill out here. Number of columns, number of beams, the base size, supported span, supported area, and the column height, and the live load. And at the bottom here, we choose the materials that we want to use for the column and the beam. I'm going to call up a diagram here just to explain some of these input fields. We have here a pretty simple column and beam system. We've got 3 rows of columns or 3 beams along here. Each row has 4 columns in it. So as a total, look around here, we've got 12 columns and 3 beams, but we need to think of these as actually 9 beams. 3 beams on each row here, 1 beam between each pair of columns. So to fill out our form, we've got 12 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, times 3 is 12 columns, and we've got 1, 2, 3 beams on each row, so that's 9 beams down here. The base size is the distance between columns in the same direction that the beam is traveling. It is equivalent to the length of each beam. So in this case, it's 10 feet, so we'll have 9 beams of 10 feet each. The base size will affect the size of the beams that are calculated in the structural calculations in the program. The supported span is the distance between adjacent rows of columns or adjacent beams. So it's perpendicular to the length of the beam or the base size. In this case, we've got 2 rows that are irregularly spaced. We've got a 12-foot span here and a 3-foot span here. If we want to model this all as one column and beam system, we need to put in a supported span here of 12 feet because the supported span is also going to determine how big the beams and columns need to be and how much material is added to each. So we need to take the largest span of our grouping and put that as our supported span. We also need to know the supported area of this column and beam system, and that is the area of the floor or roof that would be put on top. So it's the complete area here, which in this case is 30 feet times 15 feet, which is 450 square feet. The next input is column height, which is fairly self-explanatory. It's the height of the column from the floor to the underside of the beam that is sitting on top of the column. So as we said here, we're going to put in 12 columns and 9 beams. The base size is 30 feet. The supported span is 12 feet. The supported area is 450 square feet. And the column height is 10 feet. We can choose our live load here, and this will also affect the material quantities that are calculated. So let's say it's a 75 pound per square foot live load that we're designing to. And then we need to choose which type of material we want for each column and each beam. So for columns, we have these choices here, and I'm going to choose wide flange steel. That's similar to I-beams. And just for interest's sake, I'm going to choose LVL and PSL beams here, laminated veneer lumber or parallel strand lumber. This will show us this. By choosing these different materials, it'll show up in the bill of materials as separate materials. But you can choose any combination of these you want. You can have concrete columns with wide flange beams or concrete beams with wide flange columns if you want. There are no envelopes to choose for columns and beams assembly. At the bottom of the form, there is a help button, as with all other forms. You can click here, and you get the mixed columns and beams help file to help explain some of these inputs. But we're done modeling our column and beam system, and I'm going to click OK here, and the columns and beam system assembly group will get added to our tree under our project up here, and this is the assembly we just made, mixed columns and beams right there. Again, in summary measures in tree, we're showing the total of the mixed columns and beams systems of the GWP, almost 4 tons, and that gets added to our total for the tutorial project. We're up to 18 tons here of GWP. I'm going to quickly look at the bill of materials. Click on reports and then bill of materials. And when the bill of materials shows up, it shows the same bill of materials that we had for the previous assembly groups, but we've also added some laminated veneer lumber here for our beam type, and we have wide flange sections down here for our column type. And that concludes the column and beams assemblies tutorial.